Assalamu alaikum, ahlan wa marhaba bikum. A very good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shireen Matwali, and it's with my absolute pleasure to moderate the first panel discussion for day one of the 10th edition of the Dubai International Project Management Forum. It's an absolute pleasure to have you all with us. The next session, we're going to be talking all about strong leadership and effective strategies. These are the two main things that hinges, of course, effective project management. We're going to really delve deep into this particular discussion. As you all know, leaders play quite a pivotal role in inspiring and motivating their team, of course, creating that positive project culture and making critical decisions. And this is one thing we're certainly going to be delving into. They also put together a robust strategy in terms of how they're going to conquer and actually get through their objectives and be successful. And navigating these complexities. So this panel, we're going to be delving deep into these intricacies of course, leadership and strategy, and we certainly have a fantastic panelists ready for you guys. So I'd like to now welcome them to the stage. Up first, we have the board chair of the Project Management Institute. Let's give him, please, a very big warm welcome. Ike Nwankwo. And next, we have the Chief Impact Driver from PMO Strategies, Laura Barnard. Ike, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Laura, fantastic. Take a seat. All right, so we've already heard this morning from some incredible leaders, of course, up here on stage, and they went through somewhat of their strategies and tips in terms of what does great project management mean to them from various different levels now. So Laura, I'm going to kickstart with you first. You've spearheaded so many various different projects over the last 3 decades, right? And I want you to kind of highlight for us, what are some of the best practices that you have seen so far in terms of implementing strategies in the workforce, but also for that whole high return on investment?
Sure, and I think that's the secret that a lot of people in the delivery space haven't been talking a lot about, which is the return on investment.
Yes.
So many of you have heard, and I'm sure many of you have heard about this gap between strategy and execution. Well, the challenge is that the reason organizations can't close that gap is because they have built an organization that operates to reinforce that gap. So the more you can actually take a step back and look at where the opportunities are to close the gap by taking the people that do the strategy work and more closely aligning them to the delivery work, the more effective you're going to be. So strategy and delivery should be working together throughout the entire life cycle of an organization's operating model. So to do that, we must now reimagine how we work as delivery leaders. All of you that are in the delivery space, many of you aren't involved in the conversations where the strategy is being defined. So the challenge we have is that the strategy is defined over here, thrown over the fence to the delivery people, and then the delivery people are left trying to execute it. But what they don't realize, the strategy was set up for failure by the time it got to the delivery people. So instead, what we need to be doing is looking at how we can support the entire strategy lifecycle, from strategy definition to strategy execution to strategy realization, setting projects up before they ever start, doing very simple things like asking 3 basic questions.
Okay, tell us.
We overcomplicate.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. Many of you are overcomplicating things. And when we look at a business case, for example, many people say, well, we've got to have this enormous business case with pages and pages, and nobody's reading it anyway.
But they're just complicating it, right? Because no one's reading it.
Well, but that's the thing, is it doesn't have to be complicated. What delivery people need to know in order to help the organization achieve their business goals is, what are we doing, why are we doing it, and what does success look like? That last part is often missed. We are told what to do, and then we start delivering it. But if we don't understand why we're doing it, the strategy definition, then we can't possibly help them achieve the business goals, get to that return on investment in strategy realization. Delivering benefits, outputs, is not enough. We have to shift our focus to delivering better business outcomes.
Fantastic. So asking the why, so
Yes.
we're all on the same page here.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Some really great points shared there from Laura. Ike, you're up next. I'd love for you to start touching on the different management styles And share with us, what are the standout management styles that you believe really are there to get the best results out of the teams?
Yeah, good question. So the first thing I'll do is just to make sure that project managers and project professionals shift from the mindset of management to the mindset of leadership. That's very important, because what we need to start focusing, especially as the world is changing, is more around leadership. But when we talk about leadership, people interpret it differently, because when you think of a typical project manager's role, we actually perform several different functions. Sometimes we're facilitators, we're communicators, we're anti-Sally taking...
They're wearing a lot of hats, right?
We wear a lot of hats. So once you understand that we wear a lot of hats, what does that mean? The other complicated thing when it comes to leadership, especially for project managers, is that in the business world, you hear things like transformational leader, this collaborative leader or commanding leader. You have all these terms of leadership. And as a project manager, the thought is that we have to balance ourselves across all these leaderships. I tend to challenge that. But the nature of a project manager means that we have to apply the right leadership style to the particular situation for the purposes of what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
And I repeat that, the right leadership style. So therefore, you start thinking about situational leadership. Okay. So what does situational leadership mean? Applying the right leadership style. So like everything to do with project management, where we have a whole bunch of tools, at the appropriate time, we use the right tool to do the right project management task. When it comes to leadership, you have to use the right leadership style for that particular situation in order to get the results, for purpose. So going back to what Laura said, it's purpose for the objective of the organization, for the objective of the team. The question is, how do you do that? There are 4 key areas that you have to think about. The first thing is know yourself, be self-aware, because we all have a default leadership style. You have to understand what your default leadership style is, and then be able to say, I know this is my default. Is this appropriate at this particular situation?
Particular moment, yes.
Exactly. And situations change randomly. So once you understand that, and you know you have this toolbox of leadership style, you apply the right leadership style. So you need to know yourself and what you're capable of. The other thing you need to do is know your team. The team that you're working with to deliver that result, that output that is required for your organization. To know your team is not only the team as a whole, but the individual members of the team.
Absolutely,
and the complete dynamics of that team structure. And then you know how to apply the right leadership situation, either to the individual or as part of the team or as part of the structure.
I think you're spot on, because I'm sure many leaders are here in the room and they'll have different personnels and they're motivated by different things, right?
Right.
Based on our 6 human needs, some of them need the words of affirmation. They need the encouragement. Some of them need the bonuses to encourage them. So it's really understanding your personnel and what motivates them.
Correct.
Okay, tell us more.
But you can't do that in isolation. You really have to understand that you have to create a conducive environment. Okay, a conducive environment where your team members feel that you're transparent, you're open, they feel psychologically safe. You accept diverse opinions and diverse pieces of information to make decision making. So you've set up the environment, you know yourself, you know your team, the team dynamics, you set up an environment that's conducive, then you can begin to apply the situational leadership for purpose.
For that. Touch us on a little bit about the different managerial styles that you've seen that really work. I know that each style is going to be dependent on the situation and the different personnel, but what have you seen, which in a scenario, and this is, I know, off topic, but when was the last time you saw a manager and you're like, you know what, he was good, and what type of managerial style did he have? Can you touch on that maybe?
So I'll go back a bit and talk about, it's called the PMI talent triangle. There's this aspect of the PMI talent triangle, 3 areas. I won't go into detail for this particular session, but it talks about power skills. Now, one thing to understand with power skills is the ability, there are 2 key things when it comes to leadership, or 3 key skills that you have to understand. One is empathy, the other one is emotional intelligence. It's using those skills in a situational leadership situation that will allow you to understand what is best. So sometimes when you look at somebody, oh, I like that leader, is so inspirational, or he's transformational, or he's commanding, just understand that that leader may be using that particular leadership style for that particular situation. And you loved it. Take that lesson and learn from it, because you see another leader doing something, commanding, and you see it working, and you love it as well. You learn lessons from both. So if you don't use the elements of the PMI talent triangles focused on power skills, you won't be able to make this diagnosis. I remember in meetings, they always say, read the room. This is the same thing. Read the situation and then apply the right leadership style to that situation.
Fantastic feedback, absolutely. Laura, I've seen a lot of companies that really just dedicate the leadership development to a specific set, like basically top end, right? Why don't you agree with that? Why should it be leadership training be available to the entire group of people? Because there's leadership, of course, throughout the entire company. Tell me more.
Because leadership isn't a title, it's a way of operating to get things done. And if you go back to looking at how we can support this entire strategy life cycle, the problem we have is that most people are living their world. All of you delivery leaders have been trained to stay focused on planning and delivery, the strategy execution stage. But the problem we have with that is that's not where all of the ideas are generated from, right? So going to the talent triangle, there's so much emphasis in delivery on focusing on the ways of working, right? How do we do projects? But the problem is that we have to be rethinking about the why, right? That business acumen, right? That's one part of the talent triangle. But in order for you to align the business acumen skills with the ways of working skills and do that effectively, you have to learn how to lead people with you through the change process, right? So leadership is often, like leadership training and leadership programs. I was in a lot of those programs when I was inside corporate. And what I found to be the challenge is that it was safe for a select few people. So only certain people in the organization knew how to be the chameleon and have the different leadership styles needed to reach people where they were. So for example, all of you have to spend most of your time driving change. But most people, when you ask them, are people resistant to change? They say, everybody in my organization's resistant to change, right? No, they're not. You know how I know? Many of them have gotten married, right? Like, we know that people are not resistant to change. What they are resistant to is having change done to them. So we need to take that leadership training that's up here, give it to everybody in the organization that is responsible for leading others through change, and instead of forcing change on people, we need to go stand by them and say, let me take you on a journey, and by the way, this is why you want to go there, right? So anybody in the organization can be a leader, but we have to give them the tools they need so that they know how to apply it in the different situations. But every one of you, no matter your title in the organization, has the opportunity to make things better, get to those better business outcomes your leaders are looking for, if you understand why you're doing what you're doing, and how to accelerate getting to the outcomes, not just the perfect outputs, but getting to those better business outcomes for your organization, the strategy realization, why you're doing that work in the first place, right? But if you're not looking at all three sides of the talent triangle, how we do what we do, why we're doing what we're doing, the business acumen, and how we do it with and through people, not to people, until you combine all of those together, no organization is going to be able to realize their strategic goals. So it is an investment in getting that strategy delivered, to invest in the leaders at every level in the organization.
Taking them with you to the end outcome.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Valid points. Ike, next question for yourself, and I'm sure many of us have obviously seen this. Over the past 5 years specifically, we've seen a substantial growth of women in business, women in leadership, women in entrepreneurship. In fact, I was looking at some stats just the other day. 47.5% of SMEs based here in Dubai are run by women, owned by women. Wow. So it's a huge stat. So how would, big round, oh, thank you. And this has, I guess, really come from the leadership of Dubai as well, where they really encourage women in business, women in leaders, and we've seen this across the board in terms of government and the private sector. Ike, for yourself, how do we empower even more women, specifically getting into managerial roles, leadership roles, entrepreneurship positions? How do we empower them to do more?
I love the statistics you gave for this region. So again, a big round of applause to this region. But if I talk internationally, that's not the same.
Yeah, right.
That is absolutely not the same. And when you asked the question, my mind was going through to the number of conferences I've been, and I'll talk about D&I, or Women in Project Management conferences. And when I get there, two things always strike me. The first thing is very few men present. And the question is why? The second thing is I'm approached, and women say, so why are you here? As if there's a challenge. So I think if we get that mindset shifted, first of all, men need to be involved. Men need to be part of that solution. Why are men not engaged in ensuring that women exist, or female exist in the environment, entrepreneurs? We can help. What are we doing to help as men? That's one thing. Let's get that thing. Why should a female be surprised that a male is present at a woman-in-only project management conference? And why are there so few men? So one of the first things, all men out here, attend women in project management conferences and see what the concerns and issues are there, and let's work together to make sure we have more females in our profession. PMI has the stats, and I think it was the, I can't remember, one of the research, also the profession. They said in our project management profession, the ratio of male project managers to female project managers is 3 to 1.
Wow.
There's enough of statistics from the International Labour Organization that says, and this is international, that in the workforce, only 42, I think, percent are female and 72% are male. So again, there's something there that says, what are we doing to ensure that there's more? Now, there are several things we could do to do that. One is mentorship and support. How many female project managers or entrepreneurs have actually picked up and said, I want to mentor another female project manager, in this case, or guide them, or give them certification, or train them and say, go and learn this particular course. We insist. How many men have stepped up and said, I want to help female project managers into the profession? That's what we need to do. Of course, there's things around data. How many organizations have actually looked at the data and see what the gender balance ratio is, so that they can use that data in order to apply strategies within the organization on policies in order to ensure that it helps females in entrepreneurship and in project managers.
Very valid.
And one of the most important things is, how many of us actually celebrate the fact that we've done something when it comes to women in entrepreneurship or project management? We need to celebrate the success.
Besides from just celebrating International Women's Day, right?
Yeah,
Let's bring more.
Besides, get up one day and say, yes, I mentored a female or a male. They've grown up, and look at what they're doing today. And then you use that as an example and a life story so that others can follow suit. I think those are the beginning steps.
I love how passionate you are on this topic, by the way. Big round of applause to Ike. And I love the fact that I asked you that question, but I do want to ask Laura as well. Of course, you've been in management now for over 3 decades. How do we empower more women to become like yourself?
So, one word, listen. Just listen. They have a lot to say, a lot about how they can serve, right? So I have a computer science degree. I was one of 4 women in my graduating class. I grew up in technology and in finance. I was almost always the only woman in the room. Whenever I was in a leadership position, I was the youngest and the only woman in the room. And I really want to emphasize what you said here, Ike, because in my career, it was actually men that were more supportive for me because they chose to listen. And I would ask for help, and I moved quickly in my career because I paid attention to where the people were that were doing well, and I said, can you show me what this looks like? Very rarely was it in the US culture the women that were supporting other women.
That was showing you,
And it was the men that were always supporting me. And I can't tell you the number of male bosses I said, I'm going to be working for you one day, I'm just going to get out of the way over here. You let me know what you need, right? And that's how I moved quickly in my career.
So then what's your message for the fellow women in the room then?
Yeah, well, ask. The women need to ask, and the women need to have something to say, right? Be confident that you have a lot to bring to the table, and the best The best teams I've ever run were a completely diverse group that brought very different perspectives to the table. So if you don't have enough women in those conversations, you are limiting your ability to be effective because you don't have enough diverse perspectives, personalities, leadership styles, and capability to bring to the table. So I think
there's a greater message there as well to the women leaders in the room, is to be open to mentor other women as well, right?
There's one really important message. My favorite female leader inside an organization, she was the only C-suite executive that was a woman. And I asked her in this same organization where I was really struggling with not getting a lot of female support, and she said, Laura, you remember how you feel right now, and you make it your mission to never let another woman feel the way you do right now. So always on your journey, you reach behind and you bring the next generation of women along with you.
Spot on.
So, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
I'm going to be round of applause for that. That's fantastic. Really great advice for us all, definitely. Next question to you, Laura. I want to talk about future trends before our time runs out. Of course, we're going through a tech revolution here, especially with the introductions of AI. Tell us about the future trends, what's happening, and how are you personally preparing for them?
Sure. So very simply, I love that I'm a tech girl at heart, right? So I love all of the use of AI and technology, but a lot of delivery people and project managers say that it's going to replace their jobs. If your job is so administrative that it can be replaced with technology, then you're not leaning into all of the leadership competencies that really are your superpower that we need to lean into in the future. And that is, you now have an opportunity to bring people through change, to focus on the relationships, to focus on all of the parts of getting people to understand the why, asking the right questions, and taking people on the journey through change. That's where the superpower of project management people are. You are the keys to the future of your organizations, but only if you leverage technology, leverage AI to get all of that administrative stuff off your plates so that you can be focused on the bigger picture value proposition.
More time.
Yes, and be seen as valuable.
Yeah.
If you want to be seen as valuable, be valuable. Do the things that your leaders actually need in order to drive that greater success.
How are you preparing?
How am I preparing?
To come? Yeah.
So all right, there's something really cool that has been released recently that I'm super excited about.
Okay.
And I am not going to steal Pierre's thunder, but there's a very important message that is what executives have been saying all along, and I'm thrilled that Project Management Institute is bringing this to the main stage for all project delivery people in the world, and that is there's a big difference between project management success and project success. That's all. I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to steal his thunder. But the way we've been talking about it in the space for a long time is it's the difference between perfecting outputs and driving better business outcomes. So what I'm really excited about and how we prepare people in our training programs and masterminds and all of this, and our own organization, of course, is helping people make that shift to what we call becoming an impact driver. Right? The role is no longer about being an order taker, being a delivery leader. It is about shifting your focus to how can we drive bigger impact in our organization. And that, my friends, if you do that, is how you get your seat at the leadership table because you become incredibly invaluable to your organization.
Great input. I know you have something to add.
I just wanted to go back into the technology question. You know, billions of years ago, we're using the abacus as technology to move forward. Today, we talk about AI as the technology to move forward. In the future, I don't know what we'll be talking about, but it will still be technology that we need to move forward. What has been consistent across the board is us as human beings, as people that have the ideas, the vision, the innovative aspect of it. So what we need to do as individuals now is emphasize that particular skill. And then from a PMI perspective, we also always focus on the talent triangle and the power skills. So as project managers in today's environment and preparing ourselves for the future, get better at power skills. If you get better at power skills, you continue to use the technology, whatever version of it exists today or in future, in order to deliver outputs and value for your organization.
Great.
Just wanted to summarize.
Yes.
Wow.
So exciting.
All right, we are running out of time, so this is our last question to both of you. Now, we are starting 2025, right? So my first question to yourself, Laura, what were those key takeaway lessons from 2024 that you've learned from, that you're now going to share, no gatekeeping, that you're going to walk into 2025 with?
Right. So in addition to this reimagining, rethinking about the role, all the work that we do is to help delivery leaders see themselves as we see them, right? As the people that are the most, all of you in this room are the most powerful skill set in your organization. Because when people want to know how are things going, you know. But how do we ensure that we are giving, backstage we were talking and I said, every CEO that I meet says to me this, listen, everybody is asking me to make decisions, but they're not giving me the information I need to do so. And then I go talk to the delivery people and they say, what do you mean? I've got this report and that report and it's 65 pages long. And I said, that is the problem, right? It's all about how can we simplify, streamline, and give your executives, your leaders, your decision makers only the information they need to drive actions and decisions. The reason that they aren't making decisions fast enough for you is they don't know what to focus on. Yeah. So the more we can, what I'm starting to see more and more is people understanding, executives, less time than ever, they're making 1,000 decisions before lunch. The more we can do to streamline and optimize, look at that delivery cycle and all of the work we're doing to support the entire strategy life cycle as an opportunity to get through to the results, accelerate strategy delivery. And the only way you'll do that is if you are very clear and specific about the few key pieces of information, not data, but the information they need to drive those actions and decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic advice. Ike, what were some of the key takeaways from 2024? Great lessons that you're going to walk into 2025 with?
I think one of the key things for me is having the ability to have a mindset shift. It's all about the mind and forgetting this is the way I used to do it before, I have to continue doing it, oh, that won't work. Just have that mindset shift. To have that mindset shift, you have to think about 3 particular areas. One is adaptability. Tell yourself, I have to be adaptable, I have to be flexible, I have to be able to adapt to the particular situation all the time. Be agile. I don't like using words agile because you start getting into methodology.
Okay.
But the ability to, agility is a preferred word.
Okay.
Agility, have that agility mindset so that you're always telling yourself that you're learning and you're ready to adapt to the particular situation. The next thing is fit for purpose. This is where I go back to agile. Again, I'm talking about mindset. PMI did research recently, and when we're looking at where projects succeed, is when they use fit-for-purpose approaches in order to deliver the outcome. So you have to have that mindset again, that how am I going to make sure what I'm doing in order to achieve a result is fit for purpose for that particular organization at that particular time? Again, that is a mindset. The final thing I'll say is the ability to tell yourself you need to continue to learn. Okay? Learn, relearn, uplearn, de-learn, whatever form of learning, do it. Because without learning, you will not be able to be adaptable, you will not do things that are fit for purpose. You start being afraid of new skills like AI. Oh, AI is going to... No, but if you learn about it, you'll be better at it. So I think getting that mindset across these 3 areas will prepare you for the future.
Big round of applause, please. Fantastic advice from both of you. I know there's one final note. Laura, I know you've just finished writing your book not so long ago. Tell us a little bit about that. I believe you have a signing after this.
That's right. So we are doing, I think it's right over there in the next room over, we're doing a book signing, and they have books, so please come over and say hello. I'd love to sign one for you. And going back to mindset, we have what is called the Impact Engine, the central gear in the Impact Engine system, which is an operating model for building and delivering strategy through PMOs and transformation. The central gear that makes everything turn is called mindset. It's all about having the right mindset to understand the role you can play and how to become an impact driver, and then the operating model to work within. So thank you.
Fantastic key takeaways here. We're discussing strong leadership and, of course, strategy that comes with it. Can I please get a huge hand of applause for our 2 panelists, Ike, Laura. Thank you again for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure moderating the first panel discussion. I hope you enjoy the rest of the forum for the next coming days, and bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.